Shalom, and welcome back to B'nai Noach Academy, Thoughts on the Torah. Please remember to hit the like button, to subscribe, and most importantly, to share this insight and inspiration with friends and family. When you look in the book of Numbers, chapter 30, verses 6, 7, 8, 9, and on, it discusses the vows of a married woman and how her husband, or in some cases, if she's not married, her father, has the power to annul her vow, to make it to naught. But I want to zoom in on verse 9, where it says, and I'm paraphrasing it, on the day that the husband hears it, and he restrains her from her vow, he annuls her vow, and anything that she uttered from her mouth, anything that she forbade on herself is now permitted, and God will forgive her. What does God need to forgive her for? She made a vow. She had an intention of doing the vow, of keeping this vow, obviously, and her husband annulled it. It's over. For whatever reason, God gave him the power to do it, or her father, in the case of a father and daughter. What is there to be forgiven for? Well, the sages give us the insight. You know, this is the written law. But very often, or most often, we cannot understand the written law without having the proper background and commentary that was passed on from generation to generation through the oral law. Well, the sages in the Talmud, which is the oral law, they give us the insight. They give us the backstory to these words. And that is that God will, quote, forgive her, because this is talking about a woman who, after pledging to do something, after having made a vow, still she disregarded her vow. And let's say she made a vow not to eat certain types of foods and not to drink certain types of beverages. And she went ahead anyway, and she did so. She ate those foods and she drank those beverages. Unbeknownst to her, as soon as her husband found out about it, he annulled it. So now it turns out retroactively that her vow was never a vow, because it comes out, according to the Torah, that this vow, in order for it to be a true vow, needs to be authorized by her husband, by her spouse. Thus, by him annulling it, by him refusing to accept her vow, she indeed is considered as if she had never made a vow. But the fact is, at the time that she was eating those foods or drinking those beverages or whatever it is that she was doing, contrary to what she had pledged not to do, contrary to the vow that she made, she was indeed transgressing. Just she didn't realize that thing can be changed retroactively. And that's what God says. She will be forgiven. Because in fact, it turns out that that vow has been annulled. The sages tell us from here we can learn a tremendous lesson. Imagine somebody who, at the end of the day, it turns out that they indeed did not commit a sin. It turns out that whatever came to play here, but retroactively, her vow was no vow. And therefore, even though she had perhaps negative intention, or she had disregard, or she had forgotten, which on a certain level is a disregard to her words, to her vow, to the sanctity of the vow that she made. But still, now as it turns out that it's indeed not a vow, she's forgiven. She's good. If she has to be forgiven, if she needs a forgiveness, how much more so somebody who is under the obligation of a vow, or the obligation of an oath, either one that they made themselves, or the general vow, the general oath that we took at Mount Sinai. The general vow, the general oath that we have, just by virtue of the fact that we're alive, that God put us here, and we have an obligation, we have those things that he wants us to do, and we have to do. We are obligated to do. We have the choice not to, but we are really obligated to. How much more so if we transgress that, tell us the sages, that we really require and need a forgiveness. So this is an important lesson to all of us, how important it is to try to do all those things that we need to do, that we're under, quote, under oath by virtue of the fact that we're alive, that we have a godly soul in us, and God has certain demands, certain wishes from us.